In the freezing void of space, something impossible just happened. The interstellar object known as 3I/ATLAS has released massive jets of water in a region colder than -330 degrees Fahrenheit, where physics says nothing can melt, move, or breathe. Telescopes around the world confirmed it. So how could frozen rock suddenly erupt like it's alive? Is this a natural mystery, or evidence of something far more deliberate? Let's dive right in. 3I/ATLAS released water jets at -330 degrees Fahrenheit. Physics says this is impossible. When the Keck Observatory in Hawaii turned its gaze toward 3I/ATLAS, astronomers expected another harmless ball of ice drifting through the void. But the data that came back didn't make sense. At a temperature of -330 degrees Fahrenheit, where even metal becomes brittle, 3I/ATLAS released massive jets of water vapor, not once, but repeatedly, and every scan confirmed it. This was real. At that distance from the sun, water shouldn't move, shouldn't flow, shouldn't even exist as vapor. Yet something inside this object was active, as if it carried its own source of energy. That moment changed everything. Under normal conditions, comets only vent gas after crossing the frost line, the point where sunlight is strong enough to vaporize ice. But 3I/ATLAS was still deep in the cold shadow of the outer solar system. No sunlight, no heat, no reason for life. So how could a frozen comet behave like a living engine? KEK's infrared instruments confirmed something impossible. Jets of pure H2O expanding at hundreds of miles per hour, accompanied by metallic emission lines, dominated by nickel but completely missing iron. In nature, nickel and iron are inseparable twins, born from the same stellar explosions. Finding one without the other is like finding smoke with no fire. Yet here it was, nickel alone, refined and pure. That purity had only ever been seen one place before, inside human factories. And so a quiet question began circulating among scientists. Could this comet be more than just rock and ice? As news spread, the European Space Agency released faint images from Mars Express showing a glowing object hovering near the Martian horizon. But from NASA, nothing. The Perseverance rover, equipped with high-resolution cameras and positioned perfectly to observe the same region, sent back no public data. The agency explained the blackout as a federal government shutdown. But the timing couldn't have been worse, or more suspicious. Independent astronomers started digging through data archives. In faint, long-exposure frames, they spotted what looked like a cylindrical reflection, consistent across multiple captures, too aligned to be cosmic rays, too stable to be a glitch. NASA said nothing, and that silence, in a community built on openness, spoke louder than any statement could. Was it bureaucracy or hesitation? Then KEK's next scans deepened the mystery. Surrounding that metallic heart, researchers detected cyanide gas, CN, the same molecule linked to the origin of life on Earth. Cyanide and industrial nickel should never appear together. One belongs to biology, the other to metallurgy. Yet in 3I/ATLAS, they coexisted, overlapping, even moving in synchronized waves around its equator. Scientists called it the life machine paradox. Matter behaving half like an organism, half like a machine. Even stranger, the cyanide emissions followed perfectly timed pulses, repeating every few hours. It wasn't chaos, it was rhythm. If that rhythm were biological, it could mean respiration. If it were mechanical, it could mean regulation. Either way, something inside 3I/ATLAS was controlling it. And for the first time, research memos across multiple observatories began using the same haunting phrase: self-modulating activity detected. By late summer 2025, as 3I/ATLAS approached Mars, a sudden eruption of water vapor shocked everyone. The outburst was powerful enough to briefly outshine its own coma. No natural comet has ever behaved like this, not at those temperatures. At negative 330 degrees Fahrenheit, even molecular motion slows to a crawl. To produce such a burst, there had to be heat, a controlled source of heat, deep within. Computer simulations ran non-stop across ESA and Caltech. Every model failed until researchers added one key variable: artificial energy input. And then, the data fit perfectly. After the outburst, the emissions didn't fade. They stabilized, slow, balanced, repeating in rhythm, like breathing. A natural vent should collapse. This one regained equilibrium. It wasn't breaking down. It was maintaining itself. A few scientists began to whisper a new word: activation. As observatories scrambled for answers, another piece of the puzzle surfaced, hidden in TESS satellite data from months earlier. When the object was first observed, it showed no cometary tail, no dust. Its reflectivity was high, metallic, its structure solid. But when researchers enhanced the frames, they noticed something that shouldn't exist. The tail wasn't pointing away from the sun. It was pointing toward it. That single observation broke every rule of comet physics. The only way to reverse a tail is through directional reflectivity, actively manipulating how sunlight scatters off the surface. A comet can't do that. A machine might. One astrophysicist described it bluntly: it behaves as if it knows where the light is coming from. At first, scientists thought the rhythmic flickering was just sunlight bouncing unevenly. But across weeks of observation, the pattern never changed. Every few hours. Pulse. Short, long, short. Over and over again. The same timing showed up in different instruments: Mars Express, Trace Gas Orbiter, KEK Observatory, even ground-based telescopes. The synchronization was too precise to be random. When data analysts from SETI ran the sequence through binary pattern analysis, they didn't find chaos. They found structure. It wasn't communication in words, but it wasn't noise either. If this were radio, one researcher said, we'd call it a signal. By October, the world was split. On one side, conservative scientists insisted 3I/ATLAS was natural, a unique comet distorted by cosmic radiation or unknown chemistry. They warned against jumping to alien conclusions. On the other side stood a growing movement of astronomers and engineers who believed this was no coincidence. To them, the nickel purity, cyanide balance, and rhythmic energy pattern all pointed to design. They called it a techno-signature, the first in human history. Proof, perhaps, that intelligence had existed elsewhere long before us. As debates exploded across conferences, one thing was undeniable. The object was forcing humanity to confront its own arrogance about being alone. Then, just when the arguments peaked, ESA released new telemetry. 3I/ATLAS had slowed down. The shift was tiny, just a few feet per second, but precise, timed exactly as it passed Mars's orbit. No known gravitational interaction could explain it. It wasn't being pulled, it was adjusting itself. To some, it was proof of an internal propulsion system. To others, merely coincidence. But the pattern was too consistent. Every deceleration matched moments when major observatories turned toward it. If coincidence repeats that perfectly, is it still coincidence? When ground-based telescopes used laser ranging to refine their distance measurements, something strange happened. The next pulse from 3I/ATLAS shifted in timing, almost as if responding. It wasn't language, it wasn't code, it was reaction. The scientific community hesitated to call it communication, but among those who watched the raw light curves, one sentence echoed in the control rooms. It knows we're watching. Now, as 3I/ATLAS glides deeper into the inner solar system, the evidence keeps stacking. It burns nickel instead of iron. It exhales water in the vacuum of absolute cold. It pulses with perfect rhythm. It slows when we look. Each fact alone could be dismissed as anomaly. Together, they form a pattern that challenges the very definition of what's natural. Some believe it's a relic, a wandering monument from a civilization long gone. Others think it's still operational, studying us the same way we're studying it. And the most chilling idea? That we didn't discover it by accident. Maybe it came here on purpose. Now, the question isn't whether 3I/ATLAS is a comet or a machine. It's whether we're ready to understand what it means, because for the first time in human history, the universe might not just be sending us light. It might be sending us a message. So, what are we really seeing out there? A frozen wanderer obeying strange physics, or something built to travel between the stars? Because every pulse, every jet of water at -330 degrees Fahrenheit, every metallic trace whispers one truth. 3I/ATLAS isn't acting alone. Maybe it's not just drifting through our solar system. Maybe it's observing us. And if it truly carries both metal and life's chemistry, then it might not be the first message from another world, but the first reply. One day soon, the silence between those pulses might break. And when it does, we'll finally learn who's been watching whom. What do you think? Is this a comet defying physics or a probe built by intelligence far beyond ours? Share your thoughts below. I read every comment. If you want to stay ahead of the discoveries rewriting what we think we know about the universe, make sure to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. More shocking updates are coming, right here on Galactic Breaking News.